Hello viewers, welcome to our Lounge Alley. This is my project stream. It's part 63. And this is what I'm working on. So I did some more work off stream. I guess not too much. Actually, I don't remember where I left off last time. And that's part of the reason why it would have been better to record all that so I could actually tell. But yeah, I did more work on the background. I did more work on the stores, basically. And I'm kind of saving the characters for last. It's like best for last kind of thing. And the way I've been working on it, I'm going to show you guys real quick for those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time. Let's see, where is it? Okay, there you go. So I started out with doing these 3 layers, basically. One for the background, one for the stores, and one for the floor. Just because having to, let's say, start out by doing the little details that you see on the floor, all the garbage, let's say I'm doing that, and I'm working on the robot's shoes and working on all these other figures. After I put in all those colors, to have to work around them to fill in all the places for the floor, it's really tedious. Like you could see there's like all these different little areas. So rather than having to do that, I'm layering on top of them. So I'm layering on top of the backgrounds. And then having to kind of work from the background towards the foreground is my general approach. So let me find that other layer. So I started out with the buildings, and then I ended up doing the cars. Oops. The flying cars. Having to work around, not having to work around the buildings really. So, and if I made any mistakes on the cars, I could just easily erase them, and it's not going to erase the buildings. Let's see here. And then after working on the flying cars, I started working on the storefronts. Also worked on the car in the foreground, I guess the top right corner. And these aren't really permanent colors. I mean, I am liking some of them. I'm kind of liking this game, and I do want it to be like a vibrant sort of scene. I can actually just go back and change a lot of the stuff because everything is on a different color. So because it's all if I hide this layer here, I could just select these specific colors. It does a pretty good job about selecting them. I want to say that there should be like a color range. Select color gamut. Yeah, I remember when it came to Photoshop, that was something that you could do. You could just select based on color, and it would just select it wherever it is in the photo or in the image. And I want to say it's probably the same in Clip Studio Paint as selection color gamut. but it's not doing a great job. But yeah, just really the important thing is I'm able to select the areas that I want to change later, and then play around with the colors. So like I could just select that, go to edit, do hue saturation, and then I could just easily change that around. So that's one of the reasons why I chose to just select everything, or create everything first of all on a different layer specifically for this, not to interfere with anything else, and to also choose all these different colors for places that I might want to change as I move through the image. So I'm just going to continue working on filling in with solid color all these different elements. And I'm not really going to focus on color choice as much until everything has a solid color on it. I think that's going to make it easier to make the choices, because everything kind of affects everything. You know, the way that the characters are going to be colored is going to affect all the other color choices that I'm going to have done. This little rat friend here was also tuning into his music. Can't have a city theme without some rats around. And speaking of that, I just recently saw some post about how New York City is having like a huge rat problem. Surprise, surprise. So, city officials are proposing that people put out trash later, as opposed to early on giving all these mice a feast. But I don't think that's going to solve the problem. I think they just have to have like people come in and picking up the trash earlier, because I think having to put out trash later means that people are going to have to stay much later, or they're going to have like a person designated for taking out specifically the trash at a specific time. But I remember them having like rat issues forever. And I think most businesses anyways, they close around like, I don't know, 10 o'clock. Or 11 o'clock or something, and that's usually when they take out the trash. So I'm not really sure what that solution is really gonna, or if it really is a solution, rather than them just reminding people like, hey, take out the trash at this time. I don't know. Dirty City. Just kind of curious what other colors would look right. And it looks like maybe blue might be like a purplish blue might be the best. Just going to use this color for now to fill in areas that that just weren't visible. Now there's a different method that I think a lot of people use, which is using the lasso tool to make a selection and filling in that selection to avoid the things that I was talking about when it comes to making a selection. Like when you guys saw that I selected the color specifically, it left out just like a border of that color around, and what ends up happening is after you fill in that color or you change that color, the previous color that you had still sticks around with that border that wasn't selected. So maybe I could demonstrate it after all this is filled in. But what I like about this process is that it is drawing, whereas I think the lasso tool is a very technical approach. Like you really are, whoops. So I'm kind of sacrificing that, and I feel like I can always make that change. Once I select it and once I fill it in with the color that I want and then adjust it, I can always go back and just touch up those areas and make them look right. Not too worried about the face. In fact, I'm not really worried about a lot of these features because, as I mentioned, since this is going to be a layering process, and I'm going to be doing the characters on top of this layer, it's going to cover that up. So if it's a little bit messy, it's no big deal. I'm going to make a selection. I'm going to select all these areas, and you guys will see what I'm talking about in this example, why a lot of people use the lasso tool instead of the method that I'm actually using right now. So let's say I'm going to change the color to something else. Say I'm going to do it to like, let me take the time to find a color that might work. And I think I was leaning more towards like a teal. Like a teal looked interesting there. It's kind of similar to the actual color that I was using. I'm gonna hide the selection so that way I could get a better view. All right, so for the sake of the example, I'm gonna pick like a purplish color, very different from the blue. And now when I zoom in, you guys see that right there? See all that blue, those blue lines that are still around? That's what you're trying to avoid. I mean, that's why people use the lasso tool to make a selection of the areas and then fill it in. Because when they fill it in, and I'm gonna do a quick demonstration here. I'm gonna find an area. I'm gonna take this circle right here. I'm gonna use the lasso tool to make this selection here. And then I'm gonna go to edit. I'm gonna fill it in. So once that's filled in, I'm gonna select it. Gonna go to edit, color change it to something completely different, like yellow. Let's do yellow. And then, as you could see, that color isn't there. So I'm gonna first erase all this previous stuff just to make the example even better. Gonna make that selection again. Edit, fill. And now I'm gonna deselect it and do the same thing that I was doing with these other sections where I was just selecting them using the lasso tool. So I'm gonna select that. I'm gonna change the color the same way as I was changing the purple. I'm gonna do yellow again. And now I'm gonna deselect it. Zoom in, and there shouldn't be any blue visible. See that? It makes a perfect selection of it. And that's because when you use the fill tool, there is no gradient for it. Like when I make a brush stroke, right? When I use this, you could see in that brush stroke, this area right here. I'm gonna use this right here. Oops. Gonna really reduce it. You guys could see that right there. Or let me just use a pencil. Oof. Huge. Should be able to do one with no. Trying to find like a really good, like you see that right there, it has this like outside glow kind of, or like very faint pixels right there. Whereas if I make a selection, say I do that and then go to edit, fill, it's less so, I'm gonna say. I mean, it's still present there, but less so if I was to, let's say, I'm gonna do that. You know, there's a lot more gradient. There are a lot more little areas there. So that's basically the benefit of it, as opposed to just using the brush pen. Now I'm gonna switch back. And I'm going to zoom in, and you guys see there's like no yellow there. See that? But I would prefer just to keep on painting rather than doing that very technical approach, and do what you're seeing me do right now, which is just coming in and fixing those areas. And that could be done like at the very end, when once I pick all the colors and you know, choose the ones that I want to stick with, and everything else is finished. It'll be like the polishing stage where I could just zoom in and find areas like this, if they're even noticeable, because sometimes it really is irrelevant. Like, it's so small that nothing is really affected by it. But in this case, I'm gonna say that's not it. Oops. Now, I increased the tolerance just a bit to like 23 because I find that it selects even more of that specific color. Like, as you saw, once I increased it up to like 50, then it started selecting colors that are similar. So like, even though this is like a light, almost violet, it started selecting purple as well as I increased the tolerance. But if you keep the tolerance around like 23, I think it does a pretty good job about selecting things. So like, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to deselect. And as you can see, like, a lot of those colors is deleted. So you just have to kind of play around with the tolerance. You have to play around with the selection to avoid those outer edges, those glowing edges that you saw. But anyways, I'm just going to quickly play around, see some other color that might match. I mean, there's so many variations because you also couldn't increase the saturation. You can make it more bright, or you could make it a darker one. That's kind of like the whole battle with it. Once I select the colors that I want. Just gonna keep it there for now. As I mentioned, like, once I start filling up other parts and giving everything basically a flat color, then I'll come back and really try to select the ones that I want. And also, this process helps me get better at Wacom tablets because I don't have a Cintiq, so there's a disconnect really. Like, I'm staring at the screen and I'm not really looking at the pencil. And sometimes the eye being, well, the eye being there to guide the pencil really makes things a lot easier. So kind of I'm battling with that right now, but I think it's for the better, because as something I talked about before, something called blind contour drawing, which is like you covering your sketchbook. If you're doing it traditionally, you're covering the sketchbook, you're not able to see the pencil, you're not really able to see your hand and help guide it, and all you're doing is you're focusing on the subject, and you're just imagining where your hand is and where your lines are, and you're imagining how long you're making the lines. So if you're drawing the nose, you're just kind of imagining, well, okay, it starts here and it goes all the way down. So it creates this kind of challenge in your head, and it really pushes you to connect and feel what you're doing. You know, you're feeling how far you're making a line, for instance, for the nose or for the ears or something. And eventually you become really, really good at it. I mean, I talked about this before, where I saw when I was younger, I worked at a museum, and in that museum they had these figure drawing lessons. It was part of the perk of working there. So I would go and I would sit in on these figure drawing lessons, and one of the instructors there, they were demonstrating how to do blind contours, and that's what they did. They covered up their hand completely. There was no way they were able to see it. And they drew the model, but they drew it so precise. It's almost as if though they didn't even bother covering the drawing pad. That's how precise they were with blind contour, with that technique. And you guys should challenge yourself and see what kind of results. You're going to get some wacky results. You know, your drawing is going to look ridiculous. It's going to look like an abstract drawing. You know, it's not going to make any sense the first time you sit down to do it. So just sit down, get a pad, cover it with, let's say, another piece of paper, like a big giant piece of paper, to give your hand freedom to move around. Whereas if you use like a cloth, I think it's going to drape over the pencil and it's going to like weigh down the pencil. But if you use like a big piece of paper and just cover it, like a newspaper print is perfect for it. You just cover your hand and try to draw the subject, something simple even, and see where your results are going to be. Because once you lift your hand from the paper, you don't know where to continue. Like, how do you know where to put down where you left off? You know, you can't look at the paper, right? You can't look at the hand. So it becomes this challenge of having to really keep tabs of things in your mind's eye. Basically, you're imagining all the lines that you're making and trying to be as accurate and precise about your guesstimate, kind of, or your feeling of where you left off, and just working from that. And just see how challenging it is. It's incredibly challenging. And I think you'll find some interesting results. But that instructor that I was talking about, it was no problem. You know, they sat down, they did that, and it came out great. So I kind of take it as a challenge to do it with this Wacom tablet that I have, to repeat that. Whoops. Uh-oh. That's kind of interesting. That's by mistake. I kind of want to include tech in here, so... It's coming along. I'm digging it. I am digging it. might play around with this color. I was thinking of just keeping it black. But why not? I'm taking this as a really big challenge because there's so much color going on here. But I think it just adds to the whole idea of all this, which is just to distract people as much as possible. You know, the more things that they could dangle in front of a person's eye, the better. You know, they don't want you to be focused, you know, and recognizing that all your time and your entire life and existence is being exploited for their greed. The more asleep you are, the better it is for them. Just kind of like what this whole logo on his head is. Sleep. I didn't pay much attention to these buildings in the background here. It's kind of important to fill in. That was a cool little number. Classical number. I kind of want to make this building here in color. Like, I don't want to make it gray because I feel like it's just going to make it kind of boring. Like, there's already enough amount of gray. And gray is like a good neutral color, so if you don't know what to do with colors, you could always use that. And any other color that you're going to use around it is going to work well. It's perfect for that reason. Now moving on to Porky's font. Whoops. I'm gonna give it also an obnoxious color. You know, marketing, the subliminal messaging of things. Red being associated with so many things. Like it is a color for lust, right? Which is it's a primal sort of instinct. it's also something that is used for like Valentine's Day. So whenever people see these colors, it usually triggers favorable emotions for marketing. You know, people make associations whenever they see those colors. And of course, it's very vibrant. So it's going to capture somebody's attention, especially coupled with, you know, pictures of food as you see on the screen, or on the window rather. But really this color is a placeholder. I'm probably going to play around with it some more. This isn't going to be a neon sign. Whereas this welcome sign is just kind of like why I'm like holding off on playing around with it. Because it's going to be neon, so I'm going to have to do a little bit more work on there. But again, I'm just trying to fill in as much as possible with solid colors so that I can come back to it later. Dare I make that gray? Let me try to select it and see if it's going to select. Why is it selecting everything else? It's not even the same color. It's like just selecting all of them. Maybe because of tolerance. So I'm going to lower the tolerance to 12. There you go. As long as I could select it. That's what's important here. I am going to have to end the stream soon, ladies and gents. I actually have to get back to working on my other project after this today, so might end it just a bit earlier than usual. But I am really into this. Like I'm happy that I'm getting closer and closer towards a more finalized stage. Like as much as I'm enjoying this, I do want to create more projects, create more content. Ooh, a little dark there, pretzel. What? Or maybe it's appropriate because I have to end the stream. Bit of a sad outro. Nah. I'm going to fix this mistake down here. And then I'm going to have to call it a night, ladies and gents. I am on the right layer. And this is just consistency right here. Continuing the border of the door. Alright, maybe one more thing. Which is going to be these windows up here. Wrong color, wrong layer. Alright, it's okay. Whoops. Gonna go back to... Oh, this is the store layer. Why is it being funny? Gonna go back to tolerance 23. What is going on? Alright, here it is. Just have to select 4 referred layers instead of refer to all layers. That's a big difference. When it refers to all layers, then it selects the pencil work, and that has a lot of detail. That's why I was selecting all the screws and everything else. So let's see if we could change this to... That's kind of the color that I was thinking. Like a yellowish, but it doesn't seem to fit either. That's kind of cool. Nah, it's too close. It's too close to the taxi. But I did like this. Probably the best option. Well, that does it for the stream, everybody. I'm going to be back tomorrow, don't worry. I will be doing the same lineup. It's going to be Figure Drawing Basics at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then the project I'm going to be continuing with coloring, putting on more solid colors everywhere, and that's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so tune in then to see what's going to happen with this. Alright everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.